Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Half and Half in 2023. We're back. We're really happy to be back. We spent a couple weeks or maybe 10 days in Colorado with the cats. Very good travelers. They're expert travelers now. And we had a great time. There was some skiing, some downhill skiing. There was some meditating. There was some just lounging about. It was, really nice. And we're happy to be back today. So, a couple things. We have the January challenge going on for Pilates on Harrison, which is a fun game for the month of January where you earn points for taking classes. We got a lot of people participating in that. If you are one of those people, make sure you write something in the chat and then we can count your attendance for being here. If you're not one of those people, this is a great time to maybe try out the classes at Pilates on Harrison. If you're an online viewer and you just do half and half um, for the month, you could pay $39, get a month of classes every day at 9 a.m. and Monday, Wednesday, Saturday at 7:30, plus our whole video library of classes. We have a lot of back classes. $39 if you take at least 10 classes this month, you get the next month free. So you could get 2 months for $39. So if you're interested in that, that was my sales pitch for the moment. Checking out more Pilates classes, more movement lab classes. Scott has a class called Mindful Cardio, where you do 30 minutes of cardio, then some movement lab and some mindfulness work as well. So yeah, check it out. For today, if you're just a pure half and halfer and you want to stick with that, well, then let's just do that. So I have a strap, I have a stool. Find a place to sit that feels like you're not going to sink in, right? A couch is not the greatest. Maybe a dining room chair is better, or a stool. Um, and then also where your feet can be really nicely on the floor, not too low, not too high. And you can get a sense of your full foot on the floor. I have kind of a hard surface with my stool, and I like that because that gives me feedback into my sits bones. And so we're going to start with that feeling, like really feeling your sits bones or your butt bones, right? They're your ischial tuberosities for the anatomist. Um, and it's just kind of this bony part of your pelvis where you can sit. And we're going to start just kind of feeling that rolling a little bit back, a little bit forward, feeling where the kind of back edge of the sits bone is, where the front edge of the sits bone is, tipping the pelvis a little bit back and forth. Now, you may have tightness in your hips that makes you not want to tip very far one way or the other. And so that would be another thing we're paying attention to is that, not too much tension. Like, can you release some tension here? And then settle into a place that feels like you're on top of the sits bones, maybe a tiny bit tilted towards the front side of the sits bone. Now, it shouldn't feel like you're pushing really hard with your lower back to get there. You want to just feel that the pelvis is centered and you just kind of tip it a tiny bit, right? Hip bones a tiny bit, tip towards the front here. And then once you find that, just feel what it's like in your ribs and your chest. Can you soften in through there? And a lot of times what happens is the ribs go back, the pelvis goes back, and vice versa. So can you feel the pelvis, kind of that front edge of the pelvis? There's our master traveler Biddy. And then at the same time you find the front edge of the pelvis, the sits bones, you soften your chest, you soften your ribs. You imagine the back of your rib cage opening up and spreading out, right? So a lot of times the back of the ribs gets really tight and pushed forward, especially the lower ribs. See if you can imagine they open up a little bit. Maybe is a little counterintuitive to how we often work. Now, once you have that, check in with your feet. One foot, the other foot, really in the ground. Heels are grounded. Balls of the feet are grounded. Ankles relaxed. So if you allow the ankles to relax, a lot of times the heel and the ball of the foot can be more grounded as well. So I've got nice grounded feet, relaxed ankles. I've got released hips. I'm a little bit on the front of my sits bones, and that makes my lower abs, gives me access to my lower abs. And then back ribs are fanning open and my low ribs are drawing together. And then we're just going to do a little bit with the head and neck to start. So you're going to turn your head a little side to side. No big deal. This is not an epiphany moment. You're just going to relax your neck, relax your jaw, relax your eyes. See if you can let your head sort of settle into place. This is an easy turn of the head from side to side. And I know Scott in his routine this semester is going to do a little bit of orienting in the space. We could think of that here now. To start with that, just kind of seeing the room, relaxing. Again, it's not a big deal to see the room. You don't have to hold on to any particular thing in the room. Just aware of where you are in the space and then coming back to center. All right, now we're going to take some movement just with the shoulders. So starting with shoulder girdle, which is shoulder blades and collarbones, basically, moving that forward and back. So I think of the shoulder blades getting wider, and then I think of the shoulder blades getting narrower. I let the collarbones kind of roll forward, and I feel the collarbones slide a little up and back. And then really paying attention to residual, like minimizing residual movement, like superfluous movement. So sometimes as my shoulders go forward, my back might go back. I set up this really nice posture. I don't want to do that. I just want to have my shoulders go forward, leave my back in place. Sometimes as my shoulders go back, my chest might come forward. Not going to do that. Just going to feel a little bit of gliding around the shoulder girdle. And then let's take that into a circle. Same thing. Sometimes we make it feel bigger and juicier by moving the rib cage around as we move the shoulders. Just leave the rib cage where it is and just let the shoulders make a little circle. Sometimes the head starts jutting forward. Just move the shoulders. Take it the other way. The low back ribs still really open. Still easy, relaxed ankles. So the feet can be relaxed. And then a little bit of head again, side to side, feeling that. All right, let's take your hands up onto your shoulders, elbows out to the side. Now we're going to do kind of the opposite. We're going to move the rib cage without doing a lot of extra work in the shoulders. Now we did this a few weeks back. We played with this movement. What's it like to rotate the rib cage side to side? And again, it's a little bit like what we just did with the head looking. It's just kind of a gentle rib cage movement. You could do it fast or slow. Sometimes if you go a little faster, you get some rebound feeling to it. Just keep breathing. Notice if your hips want to tighten up or your legs want to swing. We're going to just breathe, move the ribs. And then bring it to center, rolling down. Let the hands drop, let the shoulders relax. Now feel where your sits bones are. They're probably off your chair. Mine are a little bit forward. I'm really kind of more on my thighs than my sits bones. But now I have this opportunity to think first, where was that sits bone place? Find the chair and then unstack the spine. See if the back ribs can open without my pelvis tipping under. And then letting the head easily float back into place. All right, I'm going to slide my feet back a little bit. Not so much that my heels come off, but how much could I get a real nice bend in the front of my ankle, but just an easy grounded heel still. That's going to help me stand up. So I'm going to think head to tail, moving as I do a little hinge forward at the hips. My knees slide forward so I can come on my feet, and then up to standing. I'm going to play with that movement a couple times. Sits bones go back, head goes a little forward, knees go forward, ankles relax, and maybe you find your stool again. Little shift forward, belly's working, ribs are in. Shift, and come up. Now, you don't have to go all the way back to your stool. You could just practice a little bit of a squat and stand back up. Or if your chair is there for you, you could come into that. You could use your hand there if you want. Shift a little forward, find the feet, release the ankles. Shift forward and up. And breathing. And one more time. And all the way up. All right, so like I said, if this is a little hard on your knees or it just feels like you can't quite get there, just do a little bit of a squat up and down. Don't go all the way to the chair, right? You can probably do two in the time I do one all the way down to the chair. So playing with that movement. We're going to keep doing this through the semester, right? So just kind of introducing that. All right, we're going to get rid of your chair. And let's grab your strap. So standing feet right underneath you again. Holding the strap or your towel, you can use a kitchen towel and hold the diagonal corners of a kitchen towel. Otherwise, holding your strap a little wider than your shoulders. Find that position and then relax it. Now we're going to do a little bending and straightening the knees. So before we did that little squat where you leaned forward, now we're not going to, which means your knees won't bend as far. You can just always bend a little farther if you stick your butt back. But just feel a little bit of down and up. We call it a demi-plie in dance classes. But this movement is, anywhere, right? Runners have to push off. Anytime you jump, you have to kind of push off from that knee bend preparation. Find that sense of bending both knees, your pelvis straight down, and your spine lined up here. We're going to shift your weight just a little over to one foot and lift the other heel. So if you're mirroring me, lift your left heel, standing on your right foot, down to both feet, lift the right heel, and then down and up a couple times, shifting side to side. Just the very beginning of balance work. Now imagine your sits bones back on the chair again. They just find the chair, straight up and down like they were sitting on the chair, and then pushing up. We're going to take a little more balance if you want. Shift all the way, come off. So you could take that foot and just put it up next to your calf or your ankle. You could just go to the tips of your toes. Try not to step on the cat. And down. All right, and then down to both feet. Okay, I made you hold the strap. Let's do a little bit with the strap. So here we go. Inhale, pulling out, and exhale, release. And inhale and pull, and exhale. And reaching out, and release. And again, see if you can line up head, ribs, pelvis, feet, heel and ball of the foot, relaxing towards the ground. Two more. Last time, pull out and hold it. Now let's add this little straight up and down knee bend. Bend your knees, straighten and arms to shoulder height. And release. And inhale. As your arms come up, ribs stay in. Three more. Wide shoulder blades, wide back, and up and stay, and release the tension. Let's do the pulls again, 8 times. And inhale and exhale. Inhale, release, feel the heels still. One more time, pull out and hold it. Bend the knees. Now we go one heel up as the arms go overhead and down, and alternating that movement. Not leaning forward, just a little knee bend, ankle bend, spine stays straight up and down. and bend. And one more time, up, leave the arms up, pulls overhead. 8 times, inhale and exhale, and reach and release. Feel how the ribs want to push forward, right? See if you can use your abdominals to just leave the ribs in place, right over the pelvis. 2 more. Pull out and hold that. Now we're going to separate these next 2. You're going to go shoulders up and together as the arms go back, shoulders down and apart. So we did this earlier just with your shoulders, basically, right? Together and apart. Now the strap follows. Your arms go a little back, but I'm not leading with my hands. I'm leading with my shoulders. Now we're going to add a little balance. So either lifting the heel or coming all the way up into a balance as you do that shoulder movement, which is kind of a weird, awkward thing. So just see if you can figure it out. One more each side. And all the way down. And relaxing here. We're going to take the strap behind you. Hold a little closer. So more like shoulder distance apart now. Little pull out. No balance work, no leg work, just arms reaching back and bring it back in. So now the shoulder blades, feel them steady. Feel your shoulder girdle, your collarbones and your shoulder blades steady. How can you just move your arm? So that humerus bone, the upper arm bone, floats back and then floats back by your side. 4 more. And 2 more. And then releasing that. All right, shall we make it to the floor? Let's take the strap down. Just going to stack all my props over here. So coming towards the front of your mat here, and let's just take an easy roll down. So little bend in the knees without tipping the pelvis. Feel how your heels, your ankles release, the balls of your feet release, and then head, chest, ribs, lower belly comes on more and more, and then finally the pelvis tips to come all the way upside down. A little hang here. Maybe your legs are straight, maybe your knees are bent. Hopefully your heels are still on the floor. Now we played with a few different ways to get to the floor. You can go to hands and knees, or we worked a little bit on last semester, shifting your weight to your hands a little so they take your weight, so your heels can come up. You can drop way down into a squat and then shift your weight back to sitting. All right, take a little roll down onto your back. Now this position, lying on your back, should basically be the position we were looking for sitting, right? So we just took it and made it horizontal. So what's the difference in feedback you get here? Well, you can't feel your sits bones anymore, but you can feel the back of your pelvis. So feeling really how the back of the pelvis, you're gonna shift maybe towards the lower part of the pelvis a little, right? So instead of all your weight being on the upper part of the pelvis and the lower back, you're going to feel the middle of the pelvis, makes your lower back a little lighter, and maybe just a tiny bit lower than the middle of the pelvis. Lower back shouldn't be grabbing and lifting, but it's not pushing into the floor. It's actually kind of hovering a little bit. It's very light, and the weight goes more across the front of the pelvis here. Shoulder blades can be really grounded, back of the ribs grounded, head grounded. Just a couple breaths here. Now we're going to play with 100 with your head on the floor, which I think is very difficult. So I'm just going to put that down. Now it's easier on your neck, but you got to really get your abdominals on, and with your head down, sometimes that's harder. So we're going to take a moment, feeling the low belly, thinking of ribs drawing together, and feeling some work in the abdominals without tensing your neck here, just letting your head be relaxed. And once you think you have a feel for that, let's take one leg up. Now it's the second leg that I got to really work in the belly so my pelvis doesn't tip over, just my legs come up. And then I'm going to feel what it's like to keep the head down and float the arms up a little. Just hold this position, knees in tabletop, belly really engaged, pelvis grounded, shoulder blades have connection, easy neck. Now, if my knees come too close to my chest, I'm not going to get much belly, right? So knees over hips. And then we start the little pumps. Inhale, 5. And exhale. If my ribs pop up, I'm not going to feel much abdominal. So I got to really find that work, even though the head's down. Trying not to grab in the neck as I do it. All right, there's our first 5. If you want, bring your head up for the second 5 or leave it down. It honestly shouldn't feel that different. It should still feel like mostly belly doing the work. Two more. Back down, holding from your abdominals, leave your legs up. Now one leg down, second leg down, and relax everything. All right. Let's take your left leg straight out on the floor. Right knee comes in, holding the back of the leg. Now, same sort of posture sense, right? So heel on the left foot, back of the pelvis, open back ribs, back of the head, all on the floor there. And inhale, stretch your right leg up. Exhale, bend it down. Leaving your leg up, let's flex and point your foot a couple times. Nice, easy ankle movement. Leaving the foot pointed, and just like you did in the 100, find your little bit of low belly, little bit of rib connection, but not tightening your neck to do it. Hands come by your side. We'll take some leg circles over to the left, around and back up. Inhale across, exhale circle. Two more. And in reverse, same thing. Get your ribs to come together. Lengthen across the front, back, and the neck. Easy. Last one. Rest your right leg on the floor. Right left leg comes in. Take a moment holding the back of your left leg and feel right heel, back of the pelvis, shoulder blades upper back, heavy head, easy neck. Take your left leg up and down. Inhale, stretch. Exhale, bend. Leaving your leg up. Let's do a little flex and point, moving the foot and the ankle. And then leaving your foot pointed. Connect in your abdominals without gripping, right? Just nice supported connection here. Hands come by your side. Leave everything in place except your leg as you circle. So left leg reaches across, around, and back up. But my posture stays the same. Then reverse. Inhale, open. Exhale, across and up. And then rest your left leg on the floor. And take a moment here. Let everything relax. Find a way up to sitting, however you like. So we're going to take that, we're going to flip it upside down. And again, see if we can use those same principles now on hands and knees. So hands under shoulders, knees under hips. And maybe like let everything collapse for a moment. Feel what that is. And then connect through your hands, pressing into the floor like we did with the strap. So wide shoulder blades, wide collarbones, ribs lifted. And then again, most of the time when I do this, and when many people do this, I sort of tuck my tailbone under to do it. So could you think like when you were sitting on the chair and you were reaching your sits bones into the chair, and you were maybe just a little bit on the front edge of your sits bones, but still had ribs connected. And then head tends to drop forward. So can the head float back into place as well? I've got my postural position again, and a little bit of support from the abdominals. We're going to take right leg, reach it back in line like you were standing, right? Like it's in that standing line position. Flex your foot, reach your heel, right? See if you can feel that kind of head to right heel feeling. We're going to take your left arm up and reach it by your ear. Nice long position. And then bring that all back down, both hands and knees. Same thing with the other side. Support the torso, reach the left leg like it's in a standing relationship with the rest of the torso. Flex your foot like you were actually standing on the floor. Support from your belly as your right arm reaches. Bring it all back down. And right leg, right heel reaches back. Left arm reaches forward. Bring it in. Opposite arm and leg. Reach. And notice if your ribs and your pelvis disconnect, right? Sometimes the hip bones tip forward and the low ribs pop out. Or sometimes you tuck, right? See if you can keep that nice, long postural feeling. And back to both hands and feet. All right, I know I'm not the yoga person, but I can't resist after we did all that, doing a downward dog. I always steal a little bit of things Scott wants to do. This is part of getting to go first. So we're going to take your hands a little in front of your shoulders, tuck your toes under, and then see if you can feel some of that support. Ribs draw together, upper back opens, sits bones on a long diagonal reach up. Head, instead of hanging the head forward, keep it in line with the rest of the spine. What does that feel like? And then relaxed ankles, relaxed knees. Heels can hover off the floor, but they're still just relaxed. And then from here, we're going to do one shift into a plank. So working your way into that full long standing posture. Head, shoulder blades, abdominals, sits bones, heels. And then reaching back one more time. Sits bones reach up. We're going to walk your hands back to your feet. And then once you're on your feet, slowly roll up to standing. All right, I am going to pass it off to Scott We'll see where he takes us.
So I'm hoping you all can hear me okay. I just heard the microphone make a strange sound, so got my fingers crossed, thumbs up that the sound is still working. So independent of sound, let's start with your feet about hip width apart. And then this practice is called orienting. It's simply to turn from side to side and take in your room. Take in any of the windows and the light that may be streaming in, any of the artwork, and even the really ordinary things that we tend to overlook, maybe the switches, the outlets. And this is considered in many traditions a meditative practice, practicing being where you are. And then there's this nice little rotation that occurs in the body to accompany the meditative awareness. And let that movement tail off and back to the front. All right. So now the sumo squats, hands on your hips, feet apart. From your hip sockets, turn your legs out a bit. Then exhale, bend. Inhale, straighten. Down and up. Steady, rhythmic movement. Last one. Exhale. Inhale. And turn your feet back to the front. Turn your left foot in and your right foot out. Similar movement. Exhale, bend your right knee. Inhale, straighten your right knee. Bend and straighten. The next time that knee in the bent position, let's pause there. Now notice that your torso is still more or less in the vertical. Rather than moving from your head, neck, or even your shoulders, initiate the movement from below your navel, tipping your hips. Moving from vertical to diagonal, hand on your knee, other hand on your hip. And then to complete that diagonal line, bring your upper arm forward and through. And a little turn to look up at your ceiling. Then come on up, back to the front. Second side, right foot in, left foot out. Exhale, bend. Inhale, straighten. So in synchronizing movement and breath, there's a couple ways that this could be accomplished. One is to move and match the breath to the movement. The other is to breathe and match the movement to the breath. Let's work with breathing, focus on breath, and then pacing the movement to match the breath. Next time, knee in the bent position, pause there. Keep the breath rhythm going. Now, forthcoming movement synchronized with the breath. from your lower belly, from your pelvis. With the next exhale, tip. Take your upper arm, overlay it atop the diagonal, and a little turn. What's that ceiling doing? Inhale, come on up, back to the front. Variation on the theme. Turn the left foot in and the right foot out. Matching movement to breath. Exhale, bend. Exhale, tip. Elbow to knee. Upper arm up. And then toward the floor, turn your nose. Inhale up. Back to the front. Right foot in, left foot out. Breath rhythm, whatever it may be. Next exhale, bend your knee. Next exhale, tip your hips. Arm up. Toward the floor, turn your nose. Come on up. Back to the front. And step your feet together. Now let's turn our attention to the fronts of the hips. And this tends to be where a lot of people are tight, constricted, and that pulls everything forward. So opening the fronts of the hips is not just for the hips. It's for your neck, it's for your shoulders, it's for your breathing, it's for your overall posture. So to begin the psoas walk, bring your hands on your hips. Take your left foot back. And lift your left heel to come forward. Descend your left heel to draw back. Forward. Back. Inhale. Exhale. Next time that back heel's up in the air, pause there. And now keep that lift in your lower belly. Head held high, chest held high. And then telescope your left heel back and down. And once you feel that heel on the floor, bring both arms forward. Remember some of the instructions you worked with seated on the chair? Keep your back ribs open. With the next out breath, lift your arms and float your chin up. And back to standing. Second side begins with hands on the hips. Right foot back. Inhale forward. Exhale back. Do you tend to have a stiff neck? If you do, there's a good chance that you lead these movements with your head, neck, or shoulders. So here's a chance to practice initiating movements from the back foot. And initiating movement from the foundation is one of the surest ways to release neck tension. Really tempting to focus on the neck when the neck hurts. Oftentimes the issue is farther down. So next time that back heel's lifted, pause there. Then to open up the front of the right hip, telescope that right heel back and down. Both arms forward. Remember that conversation earlier? How very often the lower ribs jut forward. Keep them connected as you take arms up and chin up. And back to standing. Take your feet a little wider apart. With your feet just a little bit wider than hips, shift your weight side to side. Remember how you did something like this a little bit earlier? Now let this weight shifting, this side to side movement, introduce a little bit of a rotation. Let the rotation come not from your head or your neck or your shoulders, from your foundation. And again, orienting in your room. What do you see? Maybe there's some sounds that come from this direction and different sounds from that direction. Now let that movement trail off. Now let's do a little bit more mobility work. Hands on your hips. Step your feet apart. Left foot in, right foot out. Left foot a little bit more in so you face toward the side. Then keeping both knees more or less straight. Fold from your hips. Now notice how your belly faces toward the floor. We're going to keep the belly there. And then keeping your belly facing the floor as you turn your shoulders and your head away from your screen. Couple breaths here. Then rotate back up. Back to the front. Second side, right foot in, left foot out. Right foot a little bit more in. Fold from your hips. Now, on the first side, I didn't really speak of that hand that I brought to my shin. The first step here, belly to the floor. Turn your shoulders, turn your head. And the shoulder that's closer to the floor, let that hand come to your knee or your shin and breathe. Inhale up, back to the front. Legs more or less straight, fold from your hips. This time, like you did earlier, let your spine round. Remember that feeling of letting your head hang? And hands can either come to the shins or to the floor. And just like you did right before the handoff, roll your spine up, segment by segment, vertebra by vertebra. And step your feet together. Connect your ribs to your abdomen. Keep that connection, both on the out breath and especially on the in breath. Feel how that opens up the rib cage? Now let's add some movement to that dynamic connecting. Exhale, arms up. Inhale, roll your spine down. Exhale, crown your head forward. Inhale, fold. Exhale, roll up. Arms down. Again, like that. Exhale up. Inhale, fold. Exhale, gorilla. Inhale, fold. Exhale all the way up. Inhale, arms down. I'm going to add a layer to that. Same start, exhale up. Same spine mobilization. Inhale, forward. Exhale, gorilla. Mobilize your spine the other direction. Then with the inhale, step back. Remember yoga pose, head down dog. 3 breaths here. And then come on down, all the way down, and bring your feet forward. So let's take a look at a twist. And the twist we're going to do here is the one that tends to be easiest on the hips. Take your left foot forward. Keep your right foot where it is. Don't cross it over. This is a lot easier on the hip. Bring your left arm forward, right arm back, and breathe. Now, it's not to say that bring the foot across is bad for your hips, but I know a handful of you for the new year have new hips. So let's celebrate the amazing wonders of science. And back in toward the front. Second side. Some of you I know have new knees. So maybe you find that that heel pulls in really tight, maybe not as tight just yet. Either way, twisting to the other side. And back in toward the middle. And back to hands and knees. Any old way. Back to hands and knees. Any which way. From hands and knees to head down dog. Couple breaths here. And then down to your belly. Any which way. Stretch your toes back. Reach the crown of your head forward. Then keeping your legs straight, float your legs a little bit up off the floor. Then keeping your ribs knit, lift your head, lift your chest, and breathe. Come on down. Reach your hands forward, a little bit wider than your shoulders. Elbows a little bit bent, elbows a little bit lifted. And this time, legs stay down. Press your hands to the floor to lift your head, to lift your chest. And breathe. Come on down. Hands back by your armpits. Press up to hands and knees. And set up and sitting. Could be on the floor. Could be on the stool. Could be on a cushion. Your choice. So a little slower, little deeper breathing. Remember that conversation about the shoulder girdle? Shoulder girdle includes collarbones. And shoulder girdle includes shoulder blades. It's normal as you inhale for the shoulder girdle to lift up. And that's what allows your rib cage to fully expand. And the freedom for your rib cage to fully expand is what allows your lungs to fill. So A equals B, B equals C. So how do you fully utilize the capacity of your lungs? Some of that great work Colette did with you at the outset, get that shoulder girdle, freedom of movement. Let's do 3 more of these slow, deep breaths. Now with this next exhale, drop the deep breathing and relax. All right. Time flies, doesn't it? So I'm hoping you all are part of our January challenge. Such a great way to jumpstart the new year, and also a great way to get 2 months for the price of 1 month. So please, if you haven't already, chat. That lets us know that you've been here, and we love to hear from you all. And before we part for the day, any comments, any questions? All right. Happy New Year. Great to be back. And we're going to do this again next Saturday, 9 a.m. Central Standard Time. Let's be there. Bye-bye.